Good afternoon, everyone. Is everyone roasting or is everyone feeling good? Thank you so much for joining us for a really important session that I'm very privileged to curate and moderate with this gorgeous panel. You won't hear much from me, but my name is Smriti, and I run a business called Bags of Ethics. We're very perfectly positioned just over there, where there are some beautiful flowers, so we'd love to welcome you. And I'm delighted to present a very important topic around luxury and rethinking luxury with an incredible panel of Gen Z trendsetters. So on my left, I have Casey Jean. She exhibits the concept of nominative determinism because she is a vintage jean seller and has grown her business so beautifully. So this is Casey Jean. We have Hiba Walid, who is head of community at Level Shoes, which is doing incredible things within the retail and resale space. Thank you, Hiba. Aman Dafa, who is the founder of Baslik and also an incredible content creator. Baslik is one of the jewelry brands which you have to be wearing, we're all repping and adorning. And my good friend Cora Delaney, founder and CEO of EYC Limited and Bad Tequila. So welcome to the panel.
Thank you.
So when we were putting this topic together, we know that the luxury industry is going through a lot of introspection at the moment around what do the next generation really believe is a luxury touch point. So I've asked each of my panel what they believe is luxury. So I'm going to ask each one of you, and you can start with whoever, what is your perception of luxury? Is it about how much time you spend with a brand? Is it how many stories you can tell about a brand? Is it about the price point? Is it about the exclusivity? So what does luxury really mean to you, and how is it being rethought? Any one of you. Aman.
Sorry, I'll take them for the I think I'm Gen Z myself, and for me, and I guess a lot of my cohort, it's not so much how expensive a product is or who's wearing the product per se, it's how the brand really chooses to make you feel. And I think that's a big shift that's happening in luxury across all sectors. You know, it's everyone's sort of shifting more into engaging with communities and really making sure that your customer feels seen and feels heard. And I think that's sort of shifting sort of in marketing tactics to so much more community-based events and community building that brands are taking, even bigger brands. They're focusing on getting down and doing more grassroots stuff. And that's, I think, what differentiates luxury these days.
Hiba, now you're head of community at Level Shoes. How are you building your communities authentically?
I think, just like Aman said, people want to feel like they're a part of something bigger. So it's not just about creating content or creating a story that's just going to sell. It's about creating a culture. I think it's less about exclusivity and then more about being selective. So for me, luxury is about uniqueness, that feeling of being part of something, a journey and a story. So that's kind of what we do at Level Shoes, is we create culture and not just content.
Beautiful. Now, telling a story is actually not so easy. You need to have a title, you need to have a beginning, a middle and an end. Is there a shortcut way in which brands can really tell a story? What have you seen which does really well? How do you get under the skin of a brand and tell it in a really powerful way, but in a way which is concise, which is for the Instagram generation? And I'm looking to Cora, who is, known as Vogue Business's talent whisperer. She has a contact book which is second to none. So how do you tell stories, and how do you tell your clients to tell stories? And tell me also, please introduce to the audience a little bit about what you do.
I think for me, the most important thing about telling a story is really letting the creator tell authentically the story. And it's the same with the brand, really just letting them sort of tell their truth. And, that's what luxury is. It's truth, and it's timeless kind of things. And yeah, just authenticity is like the main thing here. And also that comes around to reselling as well. That's the main word that really is what we're talking about.
We are. Casey, please introduce yourself as well. I've done a terrible job of introducing you all.
No, it's fine. My name's Casey Jean. I have two businesses, both sustainability-led. So I resell vintage designer, handbags, shoes, accessories. So everything is pre-loved. Everything has a story to tell. Everything has heritage. And I also sell vintage denim, which again, very similar in terms of it's pre-loved, it's sustainably sourced, it saves these denim pieces going to landfill, and we curate and create our own designs on them. So that is a bit of what I do. So there's two elements to the business. Did you ask me a question or did you ask me to introduce myself?
I did ask you. I think what Casey's touched upon is really interesting in terms of the themes that we're covering on this stage. So the first thing that you talked about was storytelling,
Yes.
which we will discover further on. And the second thing is about restyling, rebranding, so taking a piece, rehashing it and creating it for yourself, and making it your piece. Even if it's been loved by someone else or used by someone else, it's making it your own. So can you talk us through your craft process of how you make something unique?
Yes, so in the denim aspect, so we source these vintage Levi's that are great products. You know, I will always say they do not make denim like what they used to, and the fit and everything is perfect. So we will source these and then customize them in line with customer requests, so personal sizes, personal, preferences in terms of like distressing. So we really take a product and reinvent it and make it really cool and relevant right now. And I also think there's beauty in the fact that these pieces, they will never go out of style. And I think linking back to that kind of whole conversation, the Gen Zs now, they really want a piece of the past. And seeing that full circle moment of these jeans that could be potentially 50 years old, reinvented and redesigned and put in front of, our customers, it's really special.
And how do we scale something like that? Because in our audience, we have so many larger retailers and brands. How do you scale this very sort of personalized efforts to take a garment and upcycle it or change it? How do you do that at scale?
If I'm honest, with great difficulty. It has been a journey, but it is a passion-led project. I think you've always got to have passion at the forefront of everything you do. It is very niche. We hand select every single pair. We have to go and sift through piles and piles. We treat the denim. But I have managed to scale this business. We are currently stocked in Selfridges, which is a huge, huge win for me. And I'm very, very proud to say that. And we are part of the Project Earth. So obviously it is very sustainable what we do. I'm proud of that. And I think we have Selfridges in the audience here. Yeah, that's the crazy.
Very happy.
Yeah. So it's amazing. And it has been hard work. I have scaled a team, and I think it is difficult to scale, but we've managed to do it to a point now where we still will always be sustainable, and that's always at the heart and the culture of what we do. So it's just about building the team and keeping those standards and keeping those roots and the reason why we do it at the forefront of everything we do.
Well, there seems to be a theme. Go on, Cora.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I don't know if this is a question, but obviously Gen Z is like 14 to 29, right? That's a really wide gap.
Yeah.
And, when you're around 29, you're shopping luxury, and we're talking about Gen Z and luxury, but when you're 14, you haven't really got the funds and the accessible sort of needs to do luxury. But I always think that denim and Depop and stuff like that is a really good entry point.
100%.
I was just wondering, like, what's the sort of age of the people that are shopping with you and, like, the price point and stuff?
Yeah, so the price point, due to the nature of what we do, there is a lot that goes into it. It's very manual. It's very, custom one-of-one pieces. Our price ranges from around £90 up to around £350 for the extremely curated designs. But I guess, Depop is and Vinted and all that is kind of where I started, and just thrifting my own denim. And I also I've got a personal audience as well, and I do kind of promote, go out there and find it. I do have a customer base, and they will come to me. I'm trusted, they know they get a good service. But I would recommend to a Gen Z and to somebody, a little bit younger who doesn't have the budget, go thrift it yourself and go find it. There is a huge market out there. So that would be my kind of advice. I appreciate what we do. It does have a price point, but that does reflect the work that does go into it. And also, it is a high price point, but if you buy a pair of jeans that are not vintage, they're probably not going to last you as long. you know, they might fall apart. They might be, you know, they've been manufactured, whereas these jeans have been in circulation and they just look better and better with wear, and they actually mold to your body. So that's my, it's an investment piece is what I'm trying to say. It is an investment, yeah.
But just on your point about how brands can upscale that, I think the key here is that it's not about upscaling when it comes to recycling and then redesigning, upscaling. It is a niche, and that's why I feel Gen Zs resonate with it. It's because it is hard to find. It is one of a kind. It is unique to your personality and what you want, so it's not as easy to get. I think what brands kind of need to do is incorporate that within their brand strategy somehow. So I think in the future, that's kind of the shift where we're going to see brands incorporating it within it. So instead of, you know, throwing out old pieces or reselling it somewhere else, we'll see brands kind of incorporating that within their own strategy. So they'll have their own reselling platforms. They'll have their own upselling kind of brands. So it's less about going
Scaling up,
rather than, you know, just incorporating it within your strategy somehow.
And we've got lots of brand leaders in the audience here, which I can see, some friends and some unknown. So please feel free to put your hands up and ask questions directly. This is very much an interactive session. I'd love to ask Aman to come in on what you've just said. But does this also affect the price point? You know, if you tell a better story, can you sell it for higher?
I think you can definitely tell it. If you're telling a better story, you can 100% mark up your price. But I think when Gen Z, it's very difficult. There's a fine line between telling the story and pricing Gen Z out, which is what some brands I think really struggle to do. It's like so many brands now, they'll reissue bags from the past, for example, but you're reissuing a bag that a 15-year-old can find on eBay for £500, and you're retailing it for £5,000. So you're trying to capture that audience that's feeling the nostalgia for that bag, but then you're immediately chopping them off at the legs. So the brands are shooting themselves in the foot because they're not truly understanding what the Gen Z want. So in an instance like that, for example, when a big brand is going to reissue a bag, they're so much better off strategy-wise to take time to buy out all the stock that's on the second-hand market of those bags, repair them, and then bring them back to the market, give these bags a second life, as opposed to just introducing more when we already have so much.
Yeah, actually touching on that, a really good example is Coach, with Coachtopia, which is a Gen Z focused line, which is all upcycled leather and reused, and the price point's much lower than Coach. So not only is it sustainable, it's a lower price point and it's accessible to Gen Z.
I think if there's some amazing case studies around brands which are able to capture the youthful market. So Coachtopia is a campaign that you've been helping Coach with, is that right?
Yeah, so we did the influencer strategy and helped with the events for Coachtopia launching in the UK. So that was really amazing. We got some really amazing creators on board. We had Madeline Argy, we had loads of really great people in London, and they were really telling the story of, you know, Coachtopia and sort of driving traffic into store. So that was a really successful thing. And when we spoke about doing this panel, it was something that stood out to me straight away.
Absolutely. So, did you want to say something?
I was actually just going to give another example, and
Please.
It's not because I'm work there, but it's actually a great case study about how you can kind of incorporate it within your brand strategy. What we do as Level Shoes is we've also understood the trend of people being interested in pre-loved, reselling, and the big interest in vintage. So we've also introduced pre-loved onto our offering on our website, but then added that within our brand strategy, in which we didn't shy away. We allow people to sell, we allow people to buy pre-loved, but then as well have that offering of buying back. So what we do is, once you sell with us at Level Shoes, you have the option of cashing out, and then you also have an option of getting credit back that you can then spend on another pair of shoes at Level Shoes. And yeah, it just keeps the consumer into that ecosystem of buying, and it's all about circular fashion. So it's not just about a one-time purchase, but it's actually keeping the consumer, you know, active.
The consumer's
within the brand.
hooked to your platform, but also hooked into the concept of circularity. So
exactly.
We
you know,
offer that as well.
Yeah.
So Casey Jean offers that as well?
Yeah, we offer, on the designer aspect of our brand, we also offer the swap and sell scheme, again, touching on circular fashion, circular wardrobe, and even the Gen Zs who don't have the budget to necessarily spend a hell of a lot of money on one piece. So they can buy the piece and they might think, right, okay, I want a different bag. You style it for a couple of months, you cash in, you either reinvest into another bag or you can cash out. So I feel like, again, touching on what you said, it's a very, very good concept, and it allows Gen Zs to break into the luxury market without, having huge budgets.
I think what you can hear from the panel, dear audience, is that they all obviously have incredible personal style, but they've also talked about the personalization of their style and the customers. So from the themes that I'm hearing, you're looking for a unique piece. It doesn't have to cost you the earth. It's about that find. It's also about how do you tell your story as a person. And do you think this has been driven by sort of over-digitalization of things or mass production of something, and you just want to say, look, this is me, and I'm crafting it the way I want to, and this is my story, and I'm going to tell it how I want to?
I think it's 100% that. It's for me, I can speak for myself, for example. So I started my brand. We're an accessories brand. We're a jewelry brand. I loved jewelry, but there wasn't really any jewelry brands out there that were interesting and still had like a point of view. It was all either plain pieces or it was the super expensive stuff. And there wasn't really anyone that was creating a space where, for me, for example, like I was a huge fan of Bella Hadid, say. The stuff that she would be wearing when you're seeing her out in public, I would never be able to afford that. It was like $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. Yeah. And if that was me, then everyone else in my age bracket, for the most part, it's going to be the same thing. And so what I wanted to do was try and develop a space where the pieces that those sort of people are wearing, that you look up to, your style icons, that those pieces that you would have forever because of who's worn it, I wanted to be able to bring that at a lower price point to myself, for example. And I think focusing on that and bringing that to Gen Z specifically, I was able to see such success because we're chronically online. We are a generation that does not put our phones down. Like, I could tell you what Dua Lipa had for breakfast, for example. Yeah. Yeah, like I was bringing jewelry that Bella Hadid was wearing, Beyonce was wearing, Doja Cat, Dua Lipa, like all these girls that have these big beauty contracts, but they're wearing jewelry that I've created, that's under £200.
It's so special to hear from all of you because you're all incredibly entrepreneurial. You're incredibly, you give a lot of hope, I think, to, I don't know if you are employable, but you're certainly, or future employers, because you're giving a lot of hope that your generation are full of energy, you are full of excitement. And I think Gen Z is often categorized as this lazy generation, but it's not. You're telling stories in your own unique ways. And what we're asking the audience to do and interact with is listen to your wishes around circularity, your wishes around luxury, your wishes around rethinking. Do you have any, I don't want to say criticisms, but do you have any pointers to tell luxury brands in a sort of succinct way? Because there are many luxury brands here who I think really are finding it an amazing opportunity to hear directly from leaders within your generation. So what are luxury brands doing well and what are luxury brands not doing well on? And obviously that's a big generalization, so you can
it's a big question, but I think whilst I've been thinking about this panel and stuff, I was thinking, why don't I buy directly from store? Why do I buy sort of secondhand or whatever language you want to use, right? Because it's different everywhere. And it's like, because I want something that other people don't have. Yeah. That's literally it. I want to flex. I want something from years ago and no one else has got it. And it's like, I don't want to just walk in the store. I don't want to walk in Selfridges or Harrods and just buy something off the rack. And I think that's kind of just because of social media. We all want to have our own style and, we've touched on that already, but I think that really is the case. And also, it's not always going to be cheaper, actually. Like,
you spend a lot of money on nice things, don't you?
I do. But, so I was trying to think, like, am I being sustainable or am I just trying to flex? Am I saving money or am I actually spending more money? It's all of these questions that you start thinking about when you think about why am I buying that product?
I think what you've said is really interesting around sustainability, because sustainability is this very scary big word, and we've been operating in this space for over 25 years. And I think the thing that we've found is that sustainability is a big topic for everyone. And all you've got to do is try your best to get on the way. But it doesn't mean that it has to be ugly. It can be absolutely beautiful, it can be absolutely stylish, and it can be absolutely affordable, and it can be absolutely expensive. You know, sustainability isn't just one little box. So the fact that you've said, look, I don't know if I'm being sustainable or if I'm just like getting a good deal, you're probably doing everything at the same time. Okay, I'm going to open it up for any questions from the audience. Otherwise, I'll keep going. Do we have any questions from the audience around any issues that you're facing as retailers or brand owners or tech owners on how you want to connect with Gen Z, what platforms they operate on, whether it's here in the Middle East or anywhere else? Do we have any sort of questions? Angela. Sorry, we'll have a mic for you.
I guess this is a...
Could you repeat who you are and what you do?
My name is Angela Ferrugia, and I run a brand licensing business. I'm very interested to talk to the panel about the role of brand, because you've all got views on, you know, propositions are shown to us every day these days, and you make a new relationship with your company, for instance, but what is the role of brands? Because Gen Z is making their choice about the brand story and the product story, and they're sometimes two different things.
Absolutely.
And I don't know how you translate that.
Does anyone want to take this on, or should I go for it? Okay, great. I think a lot of brands just completely miss the mark in targeting Gen Z specifically, because if they're your end consumer, but they're not thought about from the whole process of, this is the product, this is how we're going to market, and this is how we're going to launch. And then you only think about Gen Z when you're at the launch stage, it doesn't work. You need to be thinking about Gen Z instead of consumer psychology from the beginning, and how what is valuable to them. And that starts by having Gen Zs in the room. I mean, for me, for example, I think if I was at London College of Fashion studying jewelry design, and I dropped out of my course after a couple of weeks.
Wow.
I'd started my brand already, and I was very lucky. I was having a conversation with Edward Enninful, who at the time was the editor-in-chief of British Vogue, and Edward had actually advised me to drop out of school. And yeah.
That just doesn't happen overnight. I mean, that is a lot of persistence and being at the right place at the right time.
It was right place and right time, but it's also I was giving myself the maximum surface area for success. I was putting myself in as many rooms as possible. And I think a lot of Gen Z are trying to do the same thing with the internet, for example, but we're not given enough value or spaces in those rooms post-degree, for example, especially within the fashion industry, which I guess is what most of us here to talk about, that Gen Z are not given a seat at the table when you're trying to feed them, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I think that's a big step that most brands need to take. It needs to be including Gen Z from the beginning, not just thinking about them at the end.
And how would you get brands to engage with you? Is it sending you an email, doing a DM over Instagram? What's the invitation like?
I think we really like physical presence. Like I said, you want to be part of a community. So you want to be able to go interact with the brand, be a part of something bigger. And then, yeah, I think a lot of activations, but then also Gen Zs are very, very susceptible to authenticity. So they can really, really tell when a brand is putting on a story rather than when it is all tied in together. So from the product to the storytelling to the customer experience to the way that you want to actually interact with the community. So it really, really needs to be the essence of it all, that you want to give back and you want to interact with them. So yeah, I feel like they can really, really sense it.
Just touching on from what Hiba said, it's like, yeah, building communities is so important, because that's what Gen Z, because we consume so much media, you can really see what's forced. Even with ads, for example, that you see other creators doing, you can tell what's genuinely authentic to that creator and what they're just following the pitch that they've been sent. And the ones that are authentic to the creator, they're the ones that you actually resonate with, and you then pique an interest in that brand or that product because you can tell that they're genuinely interested in it.
Yeah, I guess for us, obviously, we're on both sides of the table. So we do full creator strategy for brands to launch stuff or to do always on. And we also exclusively manage talent as well. So we see the briefs that are coming in and we know the briefs that we're making and sending out. And for us, keeping it as open as possible and making sure you're just hitting those few touch points that really need to be told is what works best for us. And we can see that in the engagement and our key learnings, at the end of the campaign.
Casey?
Yeah, I was just going to touch on kind of authenticity and how the different platforms work. We had an interesting conversation on the way here around how brands and individuals operate differently on like Instagram and on TikTok. And I think we'll all agree that TikTok is the more authentically, just less staged, more natural. And I think that big brands could learn a lot from that. Like not everything being just perfectly staged. Just more authentic and just more natural with it. And that is more relatable from a Gen Z perspective.
Absolutely, and it's not all about, I think, where a lot of big brands, I think, struggle with sort of big pushes, it's that you send the one product and it feels so forced, whereas opposed to if you want to work with certain creators and have different touch points over a certain period of time, that's going to resonate so much more with Gen Z as opposed to just sending them something once and having them post it on that note.
And so how do brands actually really get to find the top creators? Because is it through agencies? Is it through their own research? You know, how do we help brands through the process?
Sorry, you go.
Cora?
Obviously, from an agency perspective, we use different ways. So we obviously have platforms where we can see people's engagement. We can see absolutely everything. And obviously, you know, that's one of the most important things for us. But then we also use our common sense and we look like, does this feel right? Does this fit right? Is this authentic? You know, like, is this the community that we want to build? Are these people friends of each other so they can do content together? Like, all of these things. But obviously, above all, most of the time, we're looking at the numbers and making sure that it's actually gonna drive sales.
I was going to say, I think there's been a big shift recently in kind of your big top influencers, which I bet you've seen in the agency world, and UGC creators, so micro influencers and people. I think Gen Z are relating more.
Being user-generated content.
Yeah, so kind of a person who would actually use that product, an actual end user, rather than a perfectly, for example, staged model applying her Dior foundation or something like that. But I definitely linking back to just relatability and just people seeing real life people who maybe look like them, who they can relate to, rather than the big top influencers with millions of followers who are being paid for that brand deal. I think a lot of brands are now monetizing on smaller creators. So that's a big shift that I think we've seen.
I'd love to now talk about... Oh, go on, Hiba.
Sorry, I just was going to add, because this is something that actually works. I was like, if you don't want to go through that agency route, which is obviously amazing, or you don't have the knack for it, work with a Gen Z. I think incorporate it within your team. Have someone that knows.
Employ a Gen Z.
Exactly. Have them as part of your team, and then, they'll guide you through the way.
Even I've seen now brands using their own team, Gen Zs within their own team, to generate their content to drive sales. They've had no modeling experience. They've had no sales experience. It's just natural content of them within the actual office setting or the creative setting, and people are just loving it. And that is what is driving sales.
Yeah, I mean, we've just had an amazing story in the UK and actually in the Middle East of Luxe, the platform Luxe, which has got mainly really propelled their P&L through an employee-generated content model, which I think is really exciting, and they've just been sold for £40 million to Future PLC. Now, I just want to talk about digital platforms like eBay, Vinted, Vestiaire, the Luxury Closet. A lot of these platforms. Which ones are really tickling your fancy now? Do you have loyalties?
Jean Vintage.
Team Vintage?
Jean Vintage.
Team Vintage.
My brand.
Casey, Jean, what are the digital platforms which are really easy to use? Why do you use them? Are you loyal to them? It'll be great to know.
I feel like Depop, for me,
Interesting.
is one of the best platforms that I like to deep dive into. And then we were actually just talking about it. Unfortunately, it doesn't operate here, but there's also Vinted. That's a little bit more.
You don't pay the seller. The seller covers the fees. Sorry. So Depop is very good, and I think that's very like a lot of Gen Zs are selling their things on there. Now Vinted have switched up the resale model, and the seller doesn't pay the fees, the buyer pays the fees. So it's more rewarding for the seller to sell their things on Vinted. So I feel like there's been a bit of a shift in the UK, but Depop is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm an eBay fan. I feel like, Cora, you're an eBay girlie as well, no?
Where's my eBay family here?
If eBay's in the house, I'm an eBay fan.
I am an eBay fan too.
No, but for me, Vestiaire, and I would say that the ads that they feed me is literally like my mood board. So every single ad, I, by the way, get them like every 5 stories. I'm screenshotting it because I love everything, and it's like 6 items, and then I'm clicking through to site. So like the click-through rate is, I don't know how it's so unbelievably spot on.
Spot on.
I'd also like to add that quite interestingly, TikTok shop with luxury. I think it's Luxury Promise. They're Yeah, they do the live streams and everything. They're selling like crazy amounts, and I think like obviously selling luxury through TikTok is quite interesting, especially for Gen Z.
So there are, Sephora has now got its own sort of shop platform for creators. Are you finding that brands are now trying to do this themselves as opposed to going through platforms like?
I think so.
Yeah, you find so you're a.
Yeah, so I resell vintage luxury, very similarly to like Luxury Promise. I haven't jumped on the live streams yet. My brand and business and image is very curated. It's very hand selected. It's very color coordinated. It's very sustainable. But I think for me, I need to see how that fits into my brand image, which is quite important at the moment. But I do definitely think that brands are bypassing the eBays.
Yes.
Because eBay as well, very cleverly now, they offer, and so do Vinted, the authenticity guarantees. So Gen Zs know that they can shop confidently, because that's one thing about my brand is authenticity is at the forefront of everything we do. And yeah, we've got a very high returning customer rate. So the customer trusts that everything that comes in, we authenticate and we sell. And I feel like eBay and Vestiaire and Vinted have understood that element of, Gen Zs want to authenticate, yeah, and they're very good services that they have offered.
And I understand also the luxury closet, which does accessories in the Middle Eastern market predominantly, is also very successful at that.
Yeah.
Are there any questions from the audience that we can touch upon? Any queries that you have? Any issues that you'd like to unearth? Or should we just all keep chatting to each other? Good? Rich content? Okay. So, we haven't done full service to Aman's business, and I'd love to know a little bit more about the choice of how you've managed to create a business in jewelry, right from the product selection to the packaging and everything that you've done, because you're very young and you've managed to scale a brand very quickly, which is really impressive.
Thank you very much. Well, like I mentioned, when I genuinely saw a problem within fashion, which is very, very rare to find something like that. Overconsumption is something that's so big, and I think a lot of Gen Z is aware of. We're so much more mindful of where we're shopping and when we're shopping. And to keep sustainability within the core of the brand, I started working with this factory that would take down collects jewelry, and they melt down the silver, and then we reuse that silver.
Amazing.
So it's a little bit of a more expensive process, but using that recycled silver was really important to me.
Yeah.
And I guess it's similar the way that Casey's able to bring new life to old pieces. I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And even within our packaging, so when you order something from us, everything is packed into these little silk jewelry pouches that are quite large. And, we fit, say someone orders 11 SKUs, all 11 SKUs will go into those pouches. And, those pouches, as well as the product, are sort of circular, because you'll continue to use those as you travel and for other things. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on starting your brand, because I think that's an incredible win for you, and I'm sure really inspiring for lots of young entrepreneurs. Casey, you worked in HR before you founded your brand.
I did.
So what was the process of going from HR to then founding your brand? Because I just think that's really inspiring for everyone.
Yeah, I never had an intention of building a brand or building a business. It did happen by accident, and as cliche as it sounds, I had a passion for fashion growing up. I was completely self-funded, had no investment into starting the brand. I came from a working class family. I had nothing designer in my closet, to now having the pick of the bunch, which is obviously amazing for me. But I went into HR, and COVID hit. And I was just finding time sourcing vintage on eBay vestiaire, and I would get them. This was like back in 2020 for so cheap, authenticated, really, really cheap. And I just found that I had a real passion for it. And it was my partner who pushed me into, you need to set it up. And there was a huge gap in the market, especially in the UK. And I think the right time, right place, just completely
Right energy, right skill set, right passion.
And I think, interestingly, I think we were the first resale brand that actually I wanted to be a brand. I didn't just want to piggyback off all these, Dior, Chanel, Gucci. I wanted people to want to buy from a brand, feel trust, feel community, feel the luxury. And I was just very passionate about all elements of the business. And I think that's what stood us apart from the rest of our competitors, really.
Yeah, can I just also, your Instagram is off the chart amazing, and
I'd literally do it all myself.
Yeah, different to everyone else, and it feels really personable and beautiful, and yeah, I think
Thank you.
I would, every time I've seen it, I've just been so interested in everything. So I think, yeah, that definitely drags people to it, right?
Yeah, thank you so much.
One of the things I want to just touch upon, because you're all young, innovative, entrepreneurial creators, how do you hope to get your brand to a scale where that you can then think about the future of it going for 50 years, 70 years, 100 years, 150 years? Because you as Gen Z right now, you're not going to be Gen Z in 5 years or 10 years, right? So how are you going to keep the essence of your brand, whatever it is, going? Have you thought about it?
You go.
I actually put a lot of thought into this, even when beginning the brand, and I've had a bit of a slow burn growth, but it's all been really meaningful. And there's been paths that I could have taken over the last year or 2 years, which would have definitely accelerated me, but it might not have lasted long term. And that thinking long term, I think, is not just myself, but almost all Gen Z founders. It's like something that we're very, very focused on. And in that, it's sort of like we've been saying throughout this entire talk, building community and focusing on community and having these repeat moments as opposed to like a one-off creator moment, for example, and really building relationships and becoming sort of the go-to for whatever it is that you do and being seen as the place to go for whatever it might be. So for me, I want to be seen as the place to go to for cool jewelry. Mm-hmm. And the way that we've been able to do that is over the last 3 years since launching, we've constantly had these great moments with incredible celebrities, incredible talent. And doing things like that is how you sort of stand the test of time as a brand instead of trying to just have a big boom, because it's not, it doesn't last.
Boom and a bust.
Yeah, it's a boom and a bust, or it's a slow burn, and you really sort of build a legacy brand. That's how these brands be around for 100 years, 200 years. And thinking bigger than yourself.
Yeah. And I think what me and you have in common is the organic growth that we have achieved.
Yeah.
I think Cora touched on the fact of our Instagram. That was kind of what got me and the brand recognized from, typically I am an Instagram brand. I have built a business on being an Instagrammable brand, on photos, on content, on storytelling, on, the way I position myself as a brand within the market. And it's very different to, I feel like, your standard business plan, going to a bank and asking for money. It is, and that's the beauty of, I think, Gen Z and Gen Z businesses, and what you've created is unbelievable. And even the organic celebrity placements and the people that me and Aman have had in our products, it's insane. It's incredible, and that it's all organic. We haven't paid anybody to wear our things.
Touching on that, on the way here, Casey was like, "Oh my God, do you mind if I say this?"
No, of course.
Oh my God, I just had an order from Winnie Harlow.
Wow.
It's crazy. And same thing, it's building relationships with these celebrities that people look up to that are actually organic. So same thing for me, for example, Winnie. I met her actually here in Dubai, over in Dubai, 3 years ago, and since then she's been a consistent supporter of my brand. And with Beyonce, for example, I've had 3 organic placements with Beyonce because she genuinely loves the product, and she's wearing my $180 ring next to her $180,000 ring probably, to a point where last year I got asked to create all of the jewelry that her daughter was wearing on stage.
Amazing.
So she sees me as a Gen Z brand, and is she wanted me to create sort of Blue Ivy's jewelry wardrobe.
Congratulations. Absolutely amazing. Yeah. That is a round of applause.
I think longevity for me is hiring young with their finger on the pulse and listening to them.
Yes.
And, I started this agency 10 years ago. The digital landscape was completely different, actually. Like, TikTok wasn't really a thing, and we've had to evolve all the time. We're still evolving, you know, and we're hiring younger and younger and younger, you know, and I think that's the thing, is just making sure that we've got our finger on the pulse all the time, and we're just, you know, keep on building.
So as a last sort of topic, if there are employers in the room and they want to hire Gen Z, who often get a bad rep for being lazy, not wanting to come into the office, not having a finger on the pulse, being sort of a bit evasive about things, what would you say are the best tactics to hire a Gen Z and retain them?
Or if you've got a lazy Gen Z, then get rid of them. Because there's a lot of Gen Zs that deserve a good job and that work really, really hard, and they're all on the stage now. Do you know what I mean? Loads of, you know, the people that work for me that are Gen Z are absolutely brilliant, and they feel, like, you know, they educate me every day, and they're exciting, and they're excited about their career, and they're at the beginning of their career. So I think this whole lazy thing, I know some old lazy people as well. Do you know what I mean?
I think we all know some old lazy people.
I think, you know, if someone's not pulling their weight and they're not working, then you find someone else, and that's it, really.
I wouldn't want to be on the wrong end of the stick with you. Aman?
No, I completely agree. I'm like,
Yeah, no, same. I think it's that this misconception that you just said, that Gen Z is lazy. Gen Z doesn't want to work. Gen Z just wants to scroll on their phones all day. It's not true, and it's
They're actually being creative.
yeah,
Probably
like
scrolling.
but they're revolutionizing the way that, you know, the way that you find a customer, the way that you target a customer. All of that is changing because of Gen Z, because of the way that they interact with the internet and what you feed them. You know, so it's not that Gen Z is lazy. It's that I don't think Gen Z are given a fair chance in the workspace to prove themselves.
Because Gen Z are so digitally native, and you've all said, look, I want to meet in person, I want to interact in person. I think it is quite difficult for brands to know how to get Gen Z in the room. What is the best way to connect with them?
Hire them. As Cora said, hire them. I think it's like...
I think they're just misunderstood. So it's just giving them a chance, like he was saying, and then obviously adapting to their way of work. It's like we're very quick to misjudge, like, oh, this is kind of the stereotype of all of Gen Zs, but it's really easy to stereotype everyone.
Yes.
So it's just understanding and educating yourself about the way they are, what they prefer to do. Do they prefer meeting face-to-face? Then give them that. It's not that we're always scrolling on our phones. Like you said, it's an outlet to be creative, and that's kind of where we get our day-to-day inspiration from. Like, I'm always doom scrolling on my phone, but it's actually where I get all of my all of my, you know,
and which platforms are you all on? Are you on TikTok, Instagram, Snap, Pinterest? What are your platforms of choice?
Everything.
All or none?
Everything.
Or one?
All.
Everything, all. So you've got like a million apps open all the time,
Yes.
scrolling, notifications.
We're really good. I mean, something that they don't give us props about is that we're really good at multitasking. So that's one thing that you can give us props about. We're on all platforms all at the same time.
And
always.
should the content on each of the platforms be the same, or should they? So that's quite a lot of work for brands to really connect with the Gen Z. So if they've got one product that they're pushing out on Instagram, it has to be communicated differently on TikTok. It has to be different on Snap. That's a lot of work for them.
Yeah,
or
and
is
I
it
think
not?
that is the skill that a Gen Z would have over potentially like an older member of the team, because we learn to adapt, and I think the internet and the rise of social media and the different platforms have taught us that we have to be so reactive, so fast-paced, and that's what we're good at.
Yeah, just be ahead of the curve. Get a Gen Z, they'll know what to do. I feel like on Instagram, it's a little bit more polished.
Too polished.
Too polished. You're putting in, you know, everything needs to be curated. It's a bit more of a show, I would say. On TikTok, the more authentic you are, the more it's going to resonate. And the faster you need to be adapting to the trends. So trends on TikTok, you know, happen overnight. When it comes to Pinterest, everything needs to be curated and colorful and pretty in a mood. So yeah, I think understanding what each app does and how it resonates to the people that are on it is really, really important.
I just want to end by spotlighting a few Middle Eastern fashion case studies for the audience to sort of take away with them. So from Level Shoes, you have Reflaunt, which is your resale partner, I understand. In the UAE, you have La Suite as well. Does anyone? It's a Dubai-based boutique offering curated, pre-loved, and sustainable fashion. You also have Fabric Aid and Salad in Jordan and across the MENA region. You have Rimami, which is from UAE. It's a slow fashion brand emphasizing eco-friendly materials and waste reduction with very limited production, just like you, Casey. And we have Wild Fabric from the UAE, again, another amazing sustainable fashion marketplace. And we can circulate these if you're interested to learn more about some of the great platforms and brands. But if you could all just give me the pleasure of congratulating and clapping for Cora, Aman, Hiba, and Casey for really sharing some wonderful insights into how to really build a community, how to really listen to the Gen Z in all of us, but also potentially by hiring, and know that a good egg in your team is always going to be there, and there's no such thing as a lazy Gen Z, there's just lazy people in general. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.